Good morning and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folaring alongside my colleague Cyril Abaku, Senior Researcher, TVC News. These are the times when we don't bring guests in keeping with best practices around the world. And so, of course, we still link with them by phone. And, the fight against COVID-19 is continuing. Yesterday, there was the whole brouhaha about the Chinese doctors, the Chinese medical team. Now there's been some sort of a clarification. After our program, it came through that, as a matter of fact, it wasn't anything between the Chinese government and this government and our government. It was a corporate social responsibility thing from a Chinese company. But still, right into the evening, I was hearing that even in the Senate, a senator got up and said that there was no need for Chinese medical personnel for now. I don't know, we talked about it a bit yesterday, but isn't it some people are looking at it as some sort of an ego problem, our egos bruised, is it really important? I don't know, but let's leave that in yesterday. Now, the thing that we thought that we might talk about is the reported Chadian-led offensive against Boko Haram. And the remarkable thing about it is, according to reports, Boko Haram terrorists were warned by the Chadian President Idris Deby that he in particular warned the Nigerian factional leader that you better give up now or decide to, or you will perish. According to all reports, when I say Chadian-led, I say Chadian-led because I wonder, I'm just taking for granted that were Nigerian soldiers, were the Nigerian troops also involved in that whole matter? So, but they came into Nigeria, aspects of Nigeria, routed the place, according to reports, and have made very much progress. How does that grab you? We've been at this for 10 years.
Or more.
Mm-hmm. And then the Chadian president, their commander-in-chief, I saw his picture in a military uniform. I asked around with some, military people, retired military people, who I said, look, was that a PR thing? Or they said, no, you don't know him. If you did know him, it wasn't a PR thing.
He's a tested commander.
He is a tested commander.
He's a proven combatant.
And as a commander-in-chief, he actually was involved. But, sorry, I interrupted you.
I think that for me, it will be my greatest joy, as well as I believe it will be the joy of many Nigerians, if indeed from today, we can begin to count down that the days of Boko Haram are indeed numbered. It will be a great joy. In many years past, right from our involvement in the Congo, our involvement even as early as, or as late as the years when Abacha, used to intervene a lot with ECOMOG in Sierra Leone, in Liberia, Nigeria as Africa's big brother, or as the one country that adopted Africa as the centerpiece of its foreign policy, has more than paid her dues, in keeping Africa safe and stand up for the continent. So if at a time like this, we have become war weary after 10 years, we deserve to enjoy that brotherly support.
So maybe like the Chadians brought in what they would say in football would be a pair of fresh legs.
I am completely excited, because look.
Okay, let's talk to. We'll come back and we'll talk about this some more. But we do have a retired military officer on the line, Colonel Tony Inyam. He's a security consultant. Good morning, Colonel.
Morning.
Morning. Thank you very much for joining us. This is Yori Folari alongside my colleague, Cyril Abaku. Maybe you can see us.
A very good morning to you.
Thank you.
Yeah. We're just looking at the news that's come through that the Chadian commander-in-chief, the commander-in-chief of the Chadian forces, reportedly was actually on the field of what do they call it? The field of engagement.
Sure.
And you say sure, so it means that it's not strange to you either. Because I was going to ask first of all, was that something of a propaganda gimmick, or was indeed the commander-in-chief of the Chadian armed forces actually on the battlefield?
It isn't a gimmick. if you know the president's of Chad antecedents, he was a fighter who, when General Muhammad Buhari was the GOC of 3 Armored Division in those days of Shagari's reign, he was the commander of the Chadians that were giving us problems. That Colonel Okiki, who was from the River State, and a jaw officer who was a very effective commander, and who went and rooted out the Chadians from our islands. And President Muhammad Buhari, or General Muhammad Buhari then, took on the Chadians and cleared the Chadians from our land, because he then believed that those lands were our land.
Okay.
He did that even against Shagari's. Shagari didn't want us to clear the Chadians, but General Muhammad Buhari cleared the way. So what am I saying?
Was that the Matasine affair, or that was to come later?
No. The Chadians took over our land.
Okay, I recall now.
Our islands. General Muhammad Buhari, as I was a commanding officer of an engineer unit under him, and he took the challenge to clear the Chadians from our islands. Then I would say General Muhammad Buhari then was a patriot in every sense of the word. I would say strongly, I'm not sure he's the same general now, in the sense that the way we've been fighting the war against Boko Haram, for me, there has not been the strong political will and sincerity of purpose.
Well, actually, Colonel Iam, you've actually, leapfrogged a few questions that I wanted to ask, but since we're there, okay, let's do it. Because I was going to ask why it would appear that Idris Deby, commanding his troops, commanding his own armed forces, in such a short while has been able to make the impact that people are talking about. It was all over social media. It is believed that they've really knocked Boko Haram for 6, and that we might actually be in the countdown phase. So I was going to ask, why do you think the Chadians were able to achieve as much in such short order, and we've been at this for more than 10 years, and it's 1 step forward, 2 steps backward?
Fantastic question. Fantastic. The question is that if you know, the Boko Haram war has become an enigmatic war, because the allegations that the Boko Haram are being supported by other powers is becoming so strong, in the sense that many of the arms captured from the Boko Haram bear NATO numbering. So there is some suspicion that the Boko Haram are being held by the French, who would prefer Nigeria destabilized, so that Nigeria cannot be a regional power. Because Nigeria has all it takes to be a regional power. So the whole war, and also we now have...
Sorry, Colonel. Sorry, Colonel. I need to understand this. Even if that were the case, and you must know what you're talking about, our forces, the Nigerian armed forces, we hear every day, so we have no reason not to believe that they want to take out Boko Haram.
Yes.
So what is the problem? Why, as I said, has it taken us all this while? It's one thing for the French to be doing what they're doing, but how about our own guys? And why is Idris Deby able to achieve stuff that we're talking about now, and our armed forces are, we've heard about ground support. The president has authorized air support. All those things that we felt would really come into play. We haven't gotten much joy.
Now, like I was trying to say earlier, if you go by the comments the president now made some time ago in favor of Boko Haram, I'm not holding him on that, but that means that he needed to have done much more. All I'm saying is that if you also witness some of the operations, there are so many leakages in the way there are people who are undermining the genuine Nigerian soldiers who want to clear the Boko Haram, who are undermining from within. So that's why I said there has been not as much political will and as much sincerity of purpose in the way we fought the war in Boko Haram.
All right. Let me get your understanding. You help us a bit with your, special knowledge. Taking what you said at the moment for granted as to, because I can read into what you're saying, things like perhaps there are all sorts of agendas on the ground. Yes. All sorts of agendas are playing. Now, if we take that, it didn't seem to matter very much to Idris Deby. Now that he has made what I'm thinking is something of a major dent in Boko Haram, how will this affect those that allegedly are sabotaging from within? Will they still matter? Does this still count anymore?
Fantastic. First of all, what the Boko Haram did was that they overstepped. You see, there was some understanding even with Chadian government, but the Chadians, the Boko Haram went beyond they took advantage of the relationship and killed Chadian soldiers.
About 100 of them, reportedly.
Yes, and that infuriated
92.
Infuriated the Chadian authorities. So they now decided to show these people that, no, you were only doing this thing because we allowed you, and now it's time to clear you. And so I commend the Chadian president. And I think what we should do now is that truly we should go in and support the Chadian in holding the ground. The cry now is that it's one thing to defeat an enemy and take over and destroy him, but you need to occupy the land. The Chadians don't have the number, so we Nigerian soldiers should go in now and reclaim our land and by putting soldiers. And the problem I've often said, and I've said it in your program before, the number of people we have in the force is so little. This is the time we should go and occupy all those land with soldiers so that we can dominate the ground.
Okay. I would have thought, Colonel, that goes without saying.
Indeed. But you see, the Boko Haram fight has been a source of money making by some of the higher managers of the war. You would have seen that the morale is low, and this is why we have called for the removal of the Chief of Army Staff. Because if you have a Chief of Army Staff that is not performing, you replace him, as he has done with the theater commander. The Chief of Army Staff himself changed Adeni recently. If you have a commander who is not performing, it is the procedure, it is the protocol, it is the standard operating procedure. You remove him.
Okay, but as you know, Colonel, the Commander-in-Chief, the President, has rejected that line of reasoning.
Then the President is himself a failure.
Well.
Because he knows as a soldier, and I can assure you that if you dig deeply, the President is not the one taking those decisions.
Well, these are very, very contentious statements that you are making. The buck stops on the President's desk. We are talking about the Chadian-led offensive, which by all accounts has been useful, has been successful. But you're going into other areas unless you are saying that they are sort of interconnected.
They are interconnected because we are being embarrassed. For us, we spend the budget we spend on defense is much more than the whole budget of Chadian budget, national budget, and yet no results.
And now Chad have been angered into action.
Indeed.
And now they
so
go in there.
That it is an insult. In fact, it is an insult on Muhammad Buhari as the president, because for the present leader of Chad, that he himself cleared away and defeated, is now, years after, embarrassing him by showing up that he can clear Boko Haram and we can't do anything.
Well, I don't know. It's because you made a very interesting point, Colonel. You did say that there's a lot of intrigue involved. You said that there are agreements, even with the Chadians. Perhaps there are understandings that even we have. You said back in the day, more than 3 decades ago, there was political opposition to the idea of the then General Buhari clearing out a certain place. So there are all sorts of, it looks like a kind of a military, diplomatic, political situation that you've really got to understand. Because there's no doubt that Nigeria does have the might. What we've been told is that, well, it's not a straightforward war the way ordinary civilians might look at it. And now you've also added that there are all sorts of agendas, allegedly, that are also playing into this. So it's a very, very confusing kind of a situation. But what we then see is that, well, Chad has sort of done something, has sort of come with a breakthrough, and you are saying, well, the thing to do now is to move in. That is, now that Chad has opened up, we need to move in.
And it is not an issue of pride. We should go as an ally and take advantage of what Chad has done so that we can, once and for all, make the Northeast secure and safe.
Okay. Because this could be the end of Abubakar Shekau, because reportedly in the press, the Chadian president is said to have issued warnings that surrender now or prepare to perish the way, other people have perished at our hands who have taken on Chadians and killed our soldiers.
Now, we shouldn't rush to assume that it's all true. Everything is true. This is the time we need to move in to help to help make our wishes be actualized. The thing I am saying is that because I would say because of the health of our president, his age, and some distortion of his ideas of what our national interest is, and because of those who are handling him.
Colonel, okay.
Yes.
Let me let you land. Distortion.
What I'm trying to say is that it's a high time we take advantage. Those who have been benefiting from the Boko Haram war, they've made enough money. They should allow us now have peace by going in to support Chadians so that we clear and make Northeast safe and secure.
I get you.
And then face the other challenge in Northwest.
I get you. I get you. And that probably is one of the agendas that people talk about. That this war actually is profiting some. And those people would not be the most enthusiastic to see a cessation of hostilities by our defeating outright Boko Haram once and for all.
Yes. Because how do you explain? We spend more than the budget money we've been spending on Boko Haram is much more than the budget spent national budget of Chad, and yet they can do what they are doing now in less than 2 weeks.
All right then. Well, I want to thank you very much, Colonel Tony Iam, for giving
glory be to God,
giving us your perspective on this. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, Cyril, there you go. Well, some things came out there, especially his take on why we haven't been for want of a better expression, more effective against Boko Haram, and his take, and why Chad was able to do this. And he seemed to be saying that it's not all about war alone, that there are other considerations, which would be a problem. Because if we've heard along the line how he mentioned it too, we spent a pretty penny on equipping our soldiers. Oftentimes we need money, we need equipment. That's what we've heard from presidential sources, spokespeople. We need equipment, it costs money. Recently, I think the last big announcement was that the president has authorized air support for the ground troops and all of that. So why hasn't this yielded the fruit that we wanted? At the time, the Minister of Information, when he was putting it across, one got the impression that in a matter of weeks we'd be able to mop up and we'd still be, as it were. I said, one step forward, two steps backward. Now, President Idris Deby steps in wearing a military uniform, assuming the role of commander-in-chief properly. And here we are.
I think what really pained the president of Chad was that Boko Haram was audacious enough
Yes.
to carry out that attack in Chad, on their home soil. And so he said, it's one thing to mess around on the corridor, and yet it's another thing to bring that nonsense on our shores.
Exactly. And so that led to
that's the fundamental question.
action. Now this action, you know how serendipitous, or what is the grammar? If you want.
No, but I mean, that depends on whether...
Serendipitous. Because if we weren't able to do it for whatever the consideration, now it's going to have been done.
Are we ready to take up sensibly?
Yes.
Sensibly.
Yes.
If the weight of what we're fighting against is not lost on us, we should have been communicated to by now.
Okay.
The government, the defense headquarters, based on what has happened.
And there hasn't been any communication
What we
yet.
should be doing now, there's nothing.
Let me take Yakub. Please hold your idea, you can come back, because Mr. Yakub has come on the line. Good morning.
Good morning, Uncle Yori. It's George, not Yakub.
Oh, good morning, Mr. George.
Thank you very much. And good morning to Cyril as well.
My pleasure.
Uncle Yori, when the president took office in 2015, I remember the first thing he did was to travel around the war zone area, countries around the West African zone, that are surrounding us in the neighborhood, about this war. I don't know what happened to that coordination. It looks as if it failed. What the Chadian president has come to do in this Boko Haram war shows that our strategy is wrong. Because if you have a war that it is the opponent that is always coming to your doorstep, and you are always defending, there is the likelihood that the war will prolong as it is now. Look at what the Chadian president did. To some extent, there are some statements that Colonel made that may found inciting, but there is some truth in those statements. We have to be up and doing. How do you fight a war like this for 11 years with the same strategy? You are not getting results, and you are not changing the strategy. The money we are spending on this war is too much for it. People are suffering. They don't have money to eat, and we have billions. There was a chief of defense staff that had billions with him and went away with it under the guise of this war. Several other generals have known to enrich themselves corruptly because of this war. Yes. And it seems to still be going on. I think the president should change strategy. Okay. We need a change of strategy. Let him, Uncle Yori, it looks to me as if there is some element of ego in this war. We cannot claim that we have all what it takes to defeat these criminals without consulting those who can help us within our neighborhood. Okay. It is time to consult them. It doesn't make us weak.
Okay.
This is what I've got to say. Good morning.
Thank you very much for calling in, Mr. George, and indeed, good morning. I've interrupted you.
Yes.
There's plenty to what Mr. George says.
It will shock you to know that the kind of houses you will look at as tenement in Lagos, in Maiduguri, you will need to offer the head of John the Baptist, literally, and you won't get it. You know.
You're talking about the conditions there, living conditions.
No,
there.
no. That's the industry. Even if you had something as precious as silver and gold, it will take more than climbing a hill to get a house. So okay. So here's what I mean. Things are more expensive in Maiduguri than they are in Lagos, because now there's a whole industry.
Yeah, around the continuing war
on Boko Haram, in quotes.
on Boko Haram.
I personally don't believe that the real enemy are Boko Haram's ground troops. That component of the war is our attempt to flush out terrorists. We don't even have a serious national discussion of fighting terrorism. That's another kettle of fish entirely. But let's even leave that for another day. Let me read a quote from the Senate in January this year, towards the end of January. Senator Elisha Abu, representing Adamawa North, he said, going by this budget, by the budget document from 2012 to 2019, that's about 7 years, the army has received over 4 trillion naira funding. He said 4 trillion naira funding is not the problem. If we have spent 4 trillion in 7 years without any serious result, something is wrong.
Indeed. Let me take Felix coming in from Igodo, I believe. Good morning. Felix in Igodo, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, you're on air now. Phillips, okay, please go ahead.
How are you, sir?
Very well, thank you. Thank you for calling in. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. My comment is, if you look at what is going on, yes. So if you look at what is going on, you will know that yes. You will know that there is something wrong with the military. You will know that there is something wrong with the military. Because in the real terms, when the Air Force says they have gone to bomb a place, the next thing we are expecting is to see that the army goes in to raid and do the finishing work. But lo and behold, you will not hear anything. You will just see the picture of the Air Force saying they have gone to do this, they are going to do that. In this time that we are fighting Boko Haram, the Chief of Army Staff is saying he's building University of Army. Do we need University of Army in Maiduguri? Do you need Air Force University in Bauchi? All those money they're supposed to use to buy ammunition from this is for the army, for the soldiers at the war front. They are just killing our innocent soldiers. That is my own take.
Thank you very much for calling in, Phillips. There are some that are also feeling embarrassed that, look, our brothers, our dearly beloved brothers and neighbor, the Chadians, are the people that are now making sterling colors out of all of this. And then here we are, the big brother of Africa, for reasons that Colonel Iam and some of which you were also adducing to yourself, we don't know what they were. So there are perhaps ordinary patriots who are feeling a bit embarrassed about this and are saying, as Mr. George put it, that whatever the strategy is, maybe we need to have a re-look. We need to look at that strategy again. Chad comes in here and in 1 week does stuff that we have to talk about.
Okay, so for starters, we have a military leadership whose term in office has expired. What should we do about that? Their continued stay in office is illegal, but the president decides to stick with them.
Wait, even if that were the case, I was going to say, look, it's up here, isn't it? That is a matter that is of the law, and they can sort that out. But if pursuing the war, if you are having results, if you're getting results, and they are overstaying, nobody's going to quarrel about that. If you are getting results, it's just a matter of let someone else come and shine.
But now that they are not, it has become a problem.
Okay, Reverend Dominic, good morning, my friend.
Yori, good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Yori, I want to commend you, the TVC staff. I have listened to them of these few weeks. We cannot bring in guests, and they are doing extremely well.
Thank you.
I don't know those guys has understanding of the politics, economy, and the disease the way they have done it. Social fluid.
Thank you.
Thank you for this young man.
Thank you.
You already let me say this. I raised an alarm early this year, January, that I saw a bus in a filling station. That bus was a school bus, but it was donated by the wife of Chief of Army Staff. And I raised this alarm. Till today, as little as I know, the wife of the Chief of Army Staff has no budget. I don't know if you have budget, someone has to correct me. But this one going around donating buses in schools, military schools all over Nigeria, where do she get this money? Of course, the process of the war. Syria has said it also. The problem of this war is not Boko Haram.
Well,
It's
Reverend,
Hello.
you don't know that for sure. I hear the point you are making, but
I'm
you
not for
don't
sure.
know
I
that
think
about the
someone should
source of the funds.
Someone should spend, I'm not sure. If the wife of Chief of Minister have budget, where she spend? Someone should correct me. Hello, sir.
Yes, please continue.
Now, one thing said, I want someone to correct me. I'm not in military, but I did not know that Chief of Army Staff wife has no budget, and I've not seen the budget anywhere in the world. But someone to quote me right, if she has no budget, where does she get money to put on new brown buses to military school?
Okay.
In our itinerary, in our constitution, both military and civil, what is the meaning of her donating vehicles to military school?
Okay, but Reverend,
my
how
point.
do you feel about this Chadian-led offensive against Boko Haram terrorists?
Yes, Yori, that also is a divisive attitude. Do we need Mohammed Buhari, our president, to carry gun? Can I go on?
Please, go on.
I said, this is a defeating attitude. Do we need General Mohammed Buhari of our president to carry gun and go to Sambisa forest before we defeat these monsters? No.
Nobody is saying that.
The nation not supposed to carry arms. When they killed Osman bin Laden, Obama was not there.
Yes.
When they killed Ahmad Al-Day, Trump was not there.
Yes.
We have strong army in Africa. Something is wrong. Things have turned to business. And the early will stop this business of Boko Haram, the early also will defeat this monster.
In other words, Reverend, you're coming back to the whole subject matter of agenda again.
Yes.
That everybody seems to be saying is involved in this war.
Something happened 2 weeks ago. Because of coronavirus, it was not headline. 50 soldiers of Nigeria Army were slaughtered. And these 50 soldiers were conveying an ammunition to somewhere. Doesn't it take us to give them air cover? Who gave the Boko Haram that the Nigerian Army is conveying bombs from one point to another? Who gave that information? And how did they come against Nigerian Army? And they were helpless. You need Harbor. How do we go to this road? We are going to stay alone. We delivered Libya and Liberia. How could Nigerian Army could not even fight in Sambisa forest and fight in continuously? Something is wrong.
All right.
The business of Boko Haram has become higher than fighting Boko Haram. Sweden has said it, and I believe it.
All right.
And I'm calling for Nigeria. We don't need Muhammad Buhari to go to the war front. We have good soldiers that can do it if there's political will.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And God has blessed Nigeria from coronavirus.
Thank you very much, Reverend. Indeed, nobody actually was saying that, but I think I could almost, like, without getting into his mind, I could understand the process. I think the process is coming from the fact that Idris Deby is president and commander-in-chief of the Chadian Armed Forces, and that has been mentioned. I think he's saying that, nevertheless, we don't need our commander-in-chief to actually be on the field there for us to have achieved results. That's how I want to understand.
Yes, because the commander-in-chief being on the field is to provide leadership. He's the commander-in-chief.
Exactly.
He's the chief commander. He's the overriding commander.
Yes. But it is a heck of a morale booster that you don't usually see.
Of course.
You can't have the president and commander-in-chief ordinarily being in the battlefield. And when you do see it, you'd better be successful.
Sure.
It's like those people are going to be ready to die.
Sure.
You better be successful.
Sure. The office of a CNC could have been elected. So even if he didn't have military background,
yes,
as far as he is able to provide sufficient inspiration and leadership. Now this is
because
the issue.
if a civilian had won the election, the civilian would be CNC.
So this is the issue. We are the reason why we are not winning the Boko Haram war. It should be clear to us. It should be very clear to us that
we
are the reason why
Nigerians.
We are. No. When I say we, it is relative and very advised, and I'll leave it there. But we are the reason why we are not winning the war against Boko Haram. It's a shameful thing The reality is that
Cyril, you have come with parables. Though.
no.
You said
That we is on 2 layers, and I would like to leave it there. But we are the reason why we are not winning the war against.
Okay,
I think it's abundantly clear to us by now.
Okay.
Now, much of the killings you see.
But there is more to this than meets the eye.
No, but I mean, and that is even to say the least.
Yes. Okay. Mr. Lawale in Ikorodu, good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you, sir.
Quite an age.
Indeed.
Yes, I have just a little contribution to this particular Boko Haram problem we have in Nigeria.
Okay.
Let me be sincere with you, Uncle Yori. So many factors are affecting this insurgency. One is ethnicity. Two is religion. Three is incompetence on behalf of our people. Look at, then you have just said something now. Unless we solve those fundamental problems, we may not have any headway in this something. There are some vested interests within the army, outside the army, on this particular war against Boko Haram. And the earlier we are able to fish them out and deal with them, the better for us. Secondly, look, Chad solicited the advice of Israel in terms of logistics as well as intelligence to be able to get exact location where. See, is it Nigeria, big Nigerian army? Look, Yoruba will say, if you are light and you are saying you are heavy, you are deceiving yourself. So let us seek advice and help from other people. They were able to get the exact location where these people are, and they bombed them. So what is the Nigerian Air Force doing in that place if there is no cooperation between the Nigerian Army and the Nigerian Air Force? Look, let us seek external advice. And the way Chad has done this now, let us combine with Chad, let us combine with Mali, let us combine with Niger, and once and for all, rout these people out. And let us concentrate our meager resources on the development. You can imagine the amount of money we are spending on Boko Haram and ISWAP and the rest. That is why the health sector is in shambles. The education is in shambles. God bless you.
Okay, thank you very much for calling in. Yes, and this is part of the we that you're talking about. You know, this is actually part of it. I understand it, but because you're saying that it's almost like.
Okay, this is it. Some of us are the reason why all of us are weeping over Boko Haram. Some of us are responsible for making all of us victims of Boko Haram violence.
Because
I have lost friends.
Because there are people who don't want the Boko Haram insurgency to be over.
I have friends who
End
are
of
maimed.
story.
I have friends who are maimed, who have died, fighting on the front line. And there are persons who sit back somewhere and gladly smile to the bank because that is happening.
But you don't know that.
Whatever the case is, why can't we? So why can't we do? I understand what the Chadians did when the Israelis were looking forward to recalibrating the diplomatic ties in the Middle East and went to Chad and were seeking support. And Chad capitalized on that and said, we want this in exchange. They are benefiting from that. But for us, I believe that Nigerian security forces have what it takes.
Indeed.
In reality.
There is no Nigerian that doesn't believe that.
The police alone can do the job.
There is no Nigerian that doesn't think like that.
But the fact is that there is a cog in the wheel. How do we take the cog out of the wheel?
Okay.
That is the big question.
Let me go over to Divine in Makurdi. Good morning, Divine.
Good morning, Chief Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for calling.
Yes, thank you. Uncle Yori, I have to make a contribution about this issue of Boko Haram. You see, Nigeria as a country has what it takes to fight these people. In fact, to fight them to stand still within 24 hours if they have the will to do it. But the problem is that the leadership of the army fails to do the needful. The base form of defense is to attack. How can you allow the enemy to keep on coming to you every day? They will definitely overwhelm you. And if I can remember vividly, late Abacha said that any war that did not end within 24 hours, there is an external agenda in it. So the army, the leadership, the commander, they are all using it as a kind of an ATM machine. Let me ask you a question, Uncle Yori. If something is wrong in your house, you have to change the security man.
Yes.
If it happens for the second time, you change the security man. who are those security men you have in this country? Are they not the commander or the leader of Nigerian army? But his tenure has expired.
All right then.
For over a year, and you see, we are not getting results.
Okay.
They are building up test and all whatever it was in other parts of the world using Nigerian resources.
Okay, Divine, thank you very much for calling in. Now, there's a theme, there's a recurring theme here. It started from our very first caller, Mr. George, who, led on to just about everybody else, and that Mr. George started with whatever the strategy was, and that we have maintained, isn't working. And so, why are we not considering doing something different? And perhaps part of it is what you also brought up, that the other people who have called in have also brought up, which is that the chiefs, maybe need to be changed. But as I observed, the president has rejected that idea. He knows best. He knows why.
But in breaking the law anyway.
Well, as I said, I don't want to go into that argument, but it could have happened. But the president wasn't about to let it happen. And so it hasn't happened. But the other theme is that he was very colorful. Divine was very, very colorful about it. He said Boko Haram has become an ATM machine
He's
for
a
some
bold,
people.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, in other words, the continuation of hostilities is profiting some, and so allegedly there is not everybody pulling in the same direction, again allegedly, in order to end this nonsense that Chad and President Idris Deby now come in and show us that if I had a month with these guys, we wouldn't be talking about this anymore.
You see,
and he came into our territory to do it.
At the very beginning, I had said that Nigeria deserved to enjoy such support because of what we had done in the past.
Yes.
Hope I was not being over patriotic, because what happened was really to our shame.
Well, it's a bit embarrassing.
It is really
Let it be said.
Yes,
it's embarrassing.
Yes, it is really to our shame. So what can we do going forward? This is now the big question. Militarily speaking, what can we do going forward?
Okay.
Yes.
What can we do going forward? Well, let's see if we have time to look at that. Joseph in Bauchi, good morning, sir. Did you hear me? Mr. Joseph in Bauchi.
Hello.
Hello, sir. Go ahead, please.
Okay, sir. Good morning.
Good morning.
The problem with Nigeria, we always play politics for everything that we do in Nigeria. Why, sir?
We always do what?
We always play politics with everything in Nigeria.
Okay, which aspect are you talking about now? We're talking about the Chadian-led offensive against Boko Haram.
Yeah, look at what we have been doing for the past 10 years now. We don't do anything, but for the past few weeks, these guys did something strong. So, Nigeria, we are very strong, both physical and spiritual. The money is there. What are they waiting for? The moment they put politics aside, these people will defeat them within 2 weeks, sir.
Indeed.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Joseph, for calling in. Thank you, Joseph, for making it short and sharp. Again, a stark comparison. If only 2 weeks into the campaign, Idris Deby and his soldiers are getting this much coverage by way of talk, their press, about look at what they've achieved. Well, the point has been made by Colonel Inyam that we mustn't let this fritter away, whatever be the case. We mustn't let it fritter away this advance. Since we haven't been able to make this advance in over 10 years, we need to now move in and probably expand on it.
I'm not a soldier, but I do know that in strategy, you strike while the iron is hot.
Yes.
What that translates materially in what I'm saying now is that right now they're in disarray.
They are.
You need to. This is when you double it.
That was why I was being
When
a
you
bit
triple
forward.
it.
I was being a bit
So
forward. And I was
something should
saying,
happen
shouldn't
within
that be
days.
taken for granted? We don't need to talk about that kind of a thing. Isn't that what military commanders do?
Something should come within days.
I am
Something
sure.
strong, decisive, something powerful. You see, this engagement.
I hope I am not. Now it's my turn. I hope I am not being overly patriotic when I say this goes without saying.
No, but that's why I will do my
This goes
first
without
comment.
saying.
I will do my first
If
comment.
Idris Deby has opened the door, it now behoves us to go right through it.
It's a no to let this chance slip, because the fact is that Boko Haram is a terrorist organization, and one thing they will do is that if they were given time to recoup and replan, they will come out even stronger. They are recruiting. What are the recruitment networks? They are being funded. Who gives them the monies?
But aren't we getting a bit ahead of ourselves in the sense that, look, this news that we're hearing that Idris Deby, so to speak, has opened the door, then we have to take it for granted because they're professional soldiers, they're commanders. We have to take it for granted that they're going to move in.
If after 10 years...
Benga in Abuja, did I get that right?
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Yori.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for calling in.
Yes, and the guys there.
Yes.
Good morning, Benga.
Yes, you see, what has happened, number one, it has opened another vista into the fighting of Boko Haram. If you look at the Shadian, especially the president, he has been a rebel leader before, he has been in the army, you know the terrain. He understands that area. So it's not for us to partner with them to see how we can work together to achieve this. We should not look at it that we are giants of Africa, this and that. We should humble ourselves and look at what we can do to achieve this in a very little time. Because this is possible now because this is dry season. They may not be able to achieve this loss if it had been in rainy season, Mr. Yori. So that's the reason why now, between now and ending of May, which there have not been much grass or herbs in that area, we should be able to work together with them. Okay. Because look and see, they know the terrain they used to do, because Shadia is more of a desert than Nigeria. Our military are not been trained in that area. And if you look at the equipment, if you look at the vehicle, it's different from the healers we are using here. So it can withstand some, rigorous or what the kind of environment. So this is now for our government to look at it together. Right. We have the money, we have the resources. Okay. As a big brother, we can do this and achieve this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Agbenga, for calling in. As I was saying, I hope I'm not being overly patriotic, but as I was saying when Colonel Inyam was speaking, I take what he was saying for granted. When he was advising, and as you are also advising, the army themselves, they probably know more of this story than we do, that we are talking about. They have their means, their ways and means. They have their intelligence. So they will know of this. And I was saying, when Colonel Inyam was saying, and you are also saying, and other people are also saying, we have to move into the door that Idris Deby seems to have kicked down for us. Let it be put that way, which is the embarrassing part. You said
very embarrassing.
It's embarrassing
Extremely
that it took Chad to kick down the door that we have been busy looking for the key for the past 11 years. We've been looking for the key. Deby goes in there and he kicks it down.
My summation is that you can never be ahead of yourself if you have spent the past 10 years using the same solution to look for the same result. You can't be ahead of yourself. You can never be. You could never be ahead of yourself. There is nothing to leave behind at this point. We must go in. You see, now the fact is that Chad and Nigeria have been partners in this war.
Yeah.
I want to believe that there should have been a measure of notification to Nigeria that we're like as Chad, we're going to be launching an attack at so time. So Nigeria will be aware so that we don't take it as an enemy offensive.
Yeah.
But then, so we should have had that information before the attack and even now. So we should be counting now, really.
That's why
we should be counting now, really.
That's why we're talking about the Chadian lead.
For the record,
our people
not aware. For the records, I am not aware that Nigerian troops were embedded with the Chadian forces. I am not aware of that.
Okay, or that they cooperated in this effort.
If they were, by now I expect defense headquarters to have issued a statement.
Okay.
Or joint statement by the two countries. I'm not aware of that.
Abdul in Kaduna, good morning, sir. Abdul in Kaduna, good morning, sir. I hope the phones are not going to start playing up again. Abdul in Kaduna. Okay, I see what was happening. So sorry about that, Abdul. We had a connection, but I also heard it drop. You were saying that you were not, to the best of your knowledge, there has been no release, no.
Because normally in a joint operation,
yes,
there would have been a joint statement.
Yes,
there would have been some. So, but we've not seen that even in the optics. We cannot claim or pretend to know that such a thing exists. That is one. Yes. Number two is the fact that, like I always say,
so we shouldn't even be calling it in Nigeria the Chadian led then. You mean Chadian did this all on their own?
It was a Chadian program.
Chadian did this all on their own.
The Chadian president personally said, "I am coming after you, Sheikh Out," and he went after him.
And he had to come into our territory to do part of that.
He could not brook any delay. He went after him.
But he came into our territory.
He took him square on.
Yes.
And he dealt a blow. He dealt him a severe blow.
And what were our people doing?
Well, I hope they are watching this program and they will answer. But the fact is this. I do hope that in the days to come, they will take on the initiative and do something even far more, much more far-reaching than what the Chadians have done.
Well, if there's any such thing as military politics, if all of that will allow, because that's what guest after guest, caller after caller has been saying, that there's more to this than meets
No, but
the
in
eye.
fairness, if you look at the Israeli state, for instance, the Israeli defense forces gave birth to the Israeli state. So in Israel, defense is Israel's major industry.
Yes.
Perhaps after agriculture or before agriculture. If you come to Chad, the Chadians have defense as their major industry.
Indeed.
In 10 years, why haven't we created a special purpose corridor in defense? Building from what we did in Ekomag and so on, to make the Nigerian Defense Forces perhaps the best in Africa.
Mudashiru,
good morning, sir, in Ikorodu.
Good morning, sir, Mr. Yuri.
Yes, sir, good morning.
Good morning, sir. What I have to say is, I think the service chiefs, I don't know why the president cannot change them. The chief of air staff and the chief of army staff, I don't think they are cooperating. Maybe because they are not cosmates. If you try to change the service chiefs, and make sure the new services are coming that are cosmates, so that there can be cooperation. If the army is going on the ground, the airport can go on the air.
Okay.
No communication. The service chiefs, they don't like each other. I don't know why the president cannot change them. There's no cooperation among them. Change service chiefs, they cannot cooperate.
Oh dear.
Look at when Chad had issue, when they killed the soldiers, they fired the chief of army staff, and they got another one. Okay. Why can't they fire them?
Okay. All right.
Anyone that's not working, fire him and get those that are ready to work.
Okay.
Look at the general that complained of not having arms. They changed him. Nobody's asking questions.
Okay, Mr. Mudashiru, it's okay. It's okay. I have heard your point, sir. Thank you very much.
When
he said the service
chiefs
chiefs don't even like themselves. He doesn't know that. We have run out of time, but please, put it into a capsule.
No, the fact is this, what Muda is saying, when a house comes down, you can't choose the scavengers that come and pick things away. So we are literally pants down, and you will have all kinds of opinions running the riot.
Yeah.
To unify opinion, to unify perception once again, let us go out there, ride on the back of what Mr. Debbie has done,
yes,
and rout Boko Haram out once and for all.
Indeed.
If we can do it in a month, in two, that's fine.
Then we will be able to hold our heads high again.
Exactly.
Because a lot of Nigerians are feeling this embarrassment.
Then I can say each other and say, oh boy,
yes. Well, we're brothers, but we are
Nigerians.
And we are, one has to be careful, but you know how it is. It's a bit embarrassing.
I'm your big brother.
It's a bit embarrassing that the door that we've been, for the past 11 years or so, looking for the key, Idris Deby comes and kicks it down.
It should not be said.
Come on.
It should not be said.
That's our program, and thank you very much for being with us, and thank you to the telephone networks as well for cooperating with us. I guess we have to remember to thank them as well, and thank you very much, Cyril, Abaku, indeed, and other people called in and said, Reverend Dominic in particular, commending people that since this matter where you can't bring in guests as frequently as before, he said it's really enjoying TVC and has hardly known the difference. So thank you very much, all. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folani. Bye-bye for now.